Hey guys, it's the Metal Blade 5, and Injustice 2 has been announced for next year. I mentioned this before my thoughts on E3, but I'm a big fan of the first Injustice, and really wanted a sequel, so I got super excited when the game was revealed. Ever since I started making countdowns on this channel, I'd always planned to make a top 5 characters for Injustice 2 list, since there are characters that I would really like to see in the game. The reason why it's only 5 and not 10 is simply because I couldn't think of 10 characters. Also, to address some things to the people who may have not seen my E3 Thoughts video, but Captain Cold and Dr. Fate have been hinted to appear in the game, so they aren't on this list, and unfortunately, Black Manta has been revealed to be a stage transition, so he's not on the list either. Even though he would have been, and because I would have really liked to see him playable. Other than that, all I have to say is that for this list, I'm only using DC characters, even though there could potentially be guest characters like Scorpion in the first game, and more importantly, this is about characters I would like to see, not who I think is the most likely to appear in the game, so take note of that. Also, a quick warning is that there are some spoilers for the first Injustice in this video, but nothing major. But with that out of the way, let's look at my top 5 characters for Injustice 2. Okay, so this first character, I don't see any chance of this character actually appearing in Injustice 2, which is why they are at the bottom of the list. But again, this is a characters that I would like to see. As such, if this character somehow makes it into the game, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Gentleman Ghost. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody is really confused by this choice, whether they know the character or not, but hear me out. The main reason why I would like to see Gentleman Ghost as a playable character is because when I first heard of him from Batman the Brave and the Bold, which is where a lot of my DC knowledge actually comes from, I thought he was a really cool and interesting character, as he's very different from other characters in the DC universe. His origin is that he was a thief from Victorian England named Jim Craddock, who was hanged but came back as a ghost. As for what he would be like as a playable character, I think there's a lot that NetherRealm could do. For one, he has flintlock pistols, which could be used for some light projectile attacks, but his supernatural powers are where he really shines. He possesses teleportation and interdimensional travel, which could make him a very technical character that could be used to confuse opponents. Furthermore, his interdimensional travel could be used in a super move where he could drag you to hell or some spiritual world. He also has the powers of spectral energy projection, which could be used in a variety of ways, such as projectiles, or for physical moves such as infusing it with his cane, or potentially creating a spectral clone of himself like Noob Saibot in Mortal Kombat, as a lot of moves in the first Injustice were inspired by MK moves. And on the subject of that comes another idea. As you can tell just by looking at him, Gentleman Ghost is invisible, aside from his clothes. But he also has the power to turn completely invisible, in which NetherRealm could take influence from Reptile and give him his ability to camouflage as his signature ability. If Gentleman Ghost actually became a playable character, I could see him as being a bit of an oddball choice. But in all seriousness, I see no chance of Gentleman Ghost appearing as a playable character, as he's a pretty obscure character. I think the only major thing he's done is that he was in the Injustice Society. Wait a minute! Now getting to characters that actually stand a decent chance in my opinion. Darkseid. Before anyone says, but Darkseid was playable in the first game. That was the mobile game, not the main game itself, so it doesn't count in my opinion. Honestly, I was shocked that Darkseid didn't even appear as a DLC character for Injustice. His only appearance in the game was as a stage transition in the Hall of Justice. In a game that puts together tons of DC comic heroes and villains, why in the name of God was one of the most powerful villains who frequently goes up against Superman and the Justice League only a stage transition? Now you could argue that Darkseid is too powerful of a character, but we have Superman and the Kryptonian nanotech pills in the first game allow characters like Batman to fight against Superman, so I don't see any issue making Darkseid playable. As a character, Darkseid would obviously be a juggernaut. He would probably be the Injustice equivalent of Ganondorf in that he would hit incredibly hard but be really slow. Darkseid has tons of powers that can be utilized in various ways for a moveset. For one, his superhuman strength and durability would be used for physical attacks in which he attacks with powerful strikes and potentially have some super armor in some of his moves. His telekinesis could potentially be used for some grabs or some special moves like what we've seen with Gorilla Grodd so far, and his energy and mass manipulation could be used for some special moves with a little reach. But we also have Darkseid's signature power being his Omega Beams, which are like Superman's heat vision, except it never misses its targets unless it hits something else along the way. Now NetherRealm obviously wouldn't make them always hit, because it would be broken, but Darkseid's signature ability could allow the next usage of his Omega Beams to always hit before having to recharge his ability again. For Darkseid's super move, I could see one of 3 things NetherRealm could do. One is that he could use his Omega Beams at full power, another is that he could summon his army from Apocalypse to aid him, or he could potentially use the anti-life equation to control his opponents in some way to severely injure them. I don't know. I don't really know anything about the anti-life equation. I just know that he has it. Also, I think an Apocalypse stage would be awesome to see in the game. Out of all the characters on the list, I firstly think that Darkseid has the greatest chance of being playable since so many people have been requesting him to be playable. Plus, Ed Boon has said that Superman is set free by some otherworldly force. Maybe it could be Darkseid. I don't know. The only reason why Darkseid isn't any higher is because the other characters on this list have never made physical appearances in the first Injustice, so as such, it makes me want to see them even more. This next character was a character I wanted to see in the first Injustice, but knew that was unlikely since he's a semi-obscure character, I guess. Both Injustice 2 paving the way for lesser-known characters, and due to its new mechanic, I think it's the perfect time for this character to appear. Blue Beetle. The Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle, since the original... No, just stop. Like with Gentleman Ghost, I first heard of Blue Beetle from Batman the Brave and the Bold, in which he was probably one of my favorite characters from the show, which is a big reason why I would like to see him as a playable character. The origin of Jaime Reyes' version of Blue Beetle is that he is a Hispanic teenager who discovers an alien artifact known as the Scarab, which gives him an exoskeleton suit. With the exoskeleton suit, there are tons of possible ideas for moves that NetherRealm could use. This is because the main ability of the suit is that it allows Blue Beetle to create any kind of weapon he desires. The possibilities are endless with this power. For projectile attacks, he could utilize laser cannons and sniper rifles, and for physical attacks, he could create swords and claws. And those are just examples. For his special moves, there are many ideas you could come up with, such as, again, various types of guns. However, one idea I did have for a move was giving him a rocket launcher-like laser for some extra oomph. The suit also gives Blue Beetle enhanced strength and durability, which would allow him to stand up against characters like Superman if he doesn't have the Kryptonian nanotech. As for Blue Beetle's potential signature ability, this may be a little bit awkward to explain, but since his suit can obviously fly, I was thinking of making his ability some sort of flight mode, in which he could hover in the air for a short while, in which he could utilize more aerial attacks like dive kicks and like. For a super move, I have no specific ideas, however, I think it would be cool if it did involve space in some way, as his suit is an alien artifact, such as taking his opponent into space and blast them with a giant laser beam or something, even though that's kind of Supergirl's super move already. Another reason why I want Blue Beetle to be playable is, going off his personality in Brave and the Bold, he could be a very comedic character, as he is a teenager, which NetherRealm could reflect in his pre-battle and clash dialogue by having him make witty remarks. But the other big thing is that Injustice 2 has, you know, a gear system. This mechanic is perfect for Blue Beetle, as his abilities come from the suit, and the whole concept just matches up so well. I want Blue Beetle to be playable so badly. Please make it happen, NetherRealm! So far on this list, we have had male characters, but we haven't had a female character yet. Well, to any feminists watching this video, your prayers have been answered, because we have Black Canary. Black Canary was probably the very last character I added to the finalized list, as I kept switching back and forth and what characters to put in, but when she came across my mind, I realized that she would be a great inclusion to the Injustice universe. She did make an appearance in a picture owned by Green Arrow in the first game, so NetherRealm do know that she exists. Black Canary has a very strange origin, but I'll get to that later when it's more appropriate. Black Canary is a highly trained martial artist and gymnast, meaning that the skills could be used for various moves. When thinking of a moveset for Black Canary, I ended up seeing her as being kind of like Sonya Blade, but with no gadgets. She could hit hard and possibly a bit of a grappler-like character, as she typically likes to be close up through the use of hand-to-hand combat, except when it comes to her superpower, the Canary Cry. The Canary Cry is a destructive ultrasonic scream which could act as a projectile attack for her. A little bit like what we see with Atrocitus throwing up on everyone, but it could travel a bit more distance, or potentially stun opponents for follow-up attacks. For her signature ability, I honestly have no idea, since the Canary Cry is her only power. The only thing I can think of is some Canary Cry themed ability, but I can't think of anything to do with it. As for her super move, it should definitely be her using the Canary Cry at maximum power. It could be like Sindel's Fatality in Mortal Kombat 9, but on a much larger scale. Now, another reason why I would like to see Black Canary is because she would fit really well into the game's plot. This is because she is the love interest of Green Arrow, obviously. In the first game, Regime Superman killed the alternate universe's Green Arrow, so she has a motive for revenge against him, which would tie her to the insurgents. However, there is one issue with that. I found out that in the Injustice comic, Black Canary was killed by Superman, but revived and sent to another universe by Dr. Fate. But I think there is a way around this. One is that they could have her return to seek revenge, again, in some way or other. That is that in Black Canary's strange origin, she's already from an alternate universe, so they could use a Black Canary from the main universe or another universe to fill that role. Ultimately, I want Black Canary to be playable because I think she would be a badass character that would fit well into the story. Plus, you know what, I'm just gonna say it. She's hot! Alright, for this final character, we have pretty much all the arguments for the previous characters combined into one. I think that this character would have an awesome moveset, is a well-known character at this point, which I think increases their chances of making it into the game, and would fit perfectly into the plot of Injustice. I thought I saw this character at the end of the CG trailer, but then I realized it was just Batman in armor. The character that I want for Injustice 2 above all others is Red Hood. Red Hood doesn't have any superpowers, which may put him at a disadvantage against other characters in terms of plot. However, not only do we have Nanomachine's son, but Red Hood is a highly skilled military tactician and marksman, which would act as the main base for his moveset. Red Hood uses a wide variety of guns to fight crime as an anti-hero vigilante, such as handguns, machine guns, and sniper rifles, which could make him more of a projectile-focused character. For a signature ability, he could switch between different types of guns, like Wonder Woman could do with her lasso and sword in the first game. For non-gun-based attacks, Red Hood could potentially use grenades for more heavy attacks, and possibly use knives for combo moves. Plus, since Jason Todd was the second Robin, he was trained by Batman, so he's also a master of hand-to-hand combat. I also know that in the comics, he has this flight jetpack thing, which could also be used in some way. For a super move, I honestly can't think of anything super over the top like with the other characters. I can only think of something like Deathstroke's super move in the first game, with Red Hood gunning down his opponents with all sorts of military weapons from a distance. Getting to the other reason why I want Red Hood to be playable, other than him being a Batman character, even though there was an abundance of them in the first game, is because he would fit perfectly into the game's plot. I'm not exaggerating that. Injustice's plot was pretty much made for Red Hood. Red Hood's origin, for anyone who doesn't know, is that he was the second Robin, Jason Todd, like I mentioned before, but he was killed by the Joker and then later revived by Raj or Reyes Al Ghul, whatever you want to call them, using the Lazarus Pit, which caused him to go partially insane. As a result of being killed by Joker and Batman Venom to save him, Jason becomes a vigilante who uses lethal force against criminals, as he now believes that it's what they deserve, which obviously clashes with Batman's no-kill rule. But most of all, Jason wants Batman to kill the Joker, as he believes that Joker needs to die in order to bring a true end to his crimes. This is something that Jason also believed back when he was Robin to an extent, and is also his main motive in Batman Under the Red Hood. Now, how does this fit into Injustice? Well, the plot of the game is kicked off by Superman killing the Joker for manipulating him, and becomes an evil dictator in which he believes that killing criminals is the only way to bring peace. Now, where have we heard that before? Yes! Red Hood's main beliefs perfectly match up with Superman's. If Red Hood was in Injustice, I would imagine that he would respect Superman more than Batman since he killed the Joker. Kinda like Damian Wayne's reason for joining Superman in the first game. This would make Red Hood a perfect candidate to join Superman's side in an attempt to re-establish his regime. This could even be delved deeper in his pre-battle and clash dialogue with Batman, in which they can argue about how the other is wrong in terms of their ideals. In my opinion, Red Hood absolutely needs to be playable in Injustice 2. He has the potential for a great and unique moveset. He's become a more popular and well-known character in recent years, and like I said before, he would fit perfectly in the game's plot. Come on, NetherRealm, make this happen!